Good evening and welcome to Leicester Fan TV for a dedicated show tonight. It says Fan Zone show, and of course it always is a Fan Zone show because we're going to be talking to you and getting your comments up on screen, but it is dedicated today specifically for, as you can see in the title, Brendan Rodgers. Now, we haven't, had a dedicated show where we've spoken just about Brendan Rodgers in a long time because it's 10 games ago, Brendan Rodgers was sacked as Leicester City manager, but now the season's finished and Leicester City have been relegated to the Championship. It's time for us at Leicester Fan TV. We're going to be doing, a load of dedicated shows to different aspects of our season. And today, right now, is the one about Brendan Rodgers. And the main question that we're going to be going through today is, could Brendan Rodgers have kept us in the Premier League? Now, look, I think the fan base was pretty convinced at the time that Rodgers went. It was time to go. A lot would argue it should have been a lot earlier. However, I want you to get your comments in, below, because that's the discussion we're having. Should Rodgers have been kept in hindsight? Should Rodgers have gone in October? Should he have gone in January or February? Let us know what you think, because we're going to be getting load of comments on screen and having a chat and going through this season from the Brendan Rodgers point of view. Now, a few people in the comments already, so please, like I said, keep getting your comments in. It's much appreciated, everyone watching. We've got a Facebook user here. He would have kept us up. We should have backed him, somebody said. It's an interesting point. I don't know if that's the same person, but somebody has said should have kept him 100%. He wouldn't have got us relegated. I think the same person has said there. Boho Records. Boho, again, mate, I said it to you a few days ago. Really nice to see you, mate, in the chat. It's been a long time since we spoke. Drop me a message after this, a DM or whatever. Hi, Locks. Hope you're well, sir. Welcome back. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Good to see you on the comments as well. Another Facebook user. By the way, guys, if you're watching on Facebook and you go to the actual Leicester Fan TV page, your comments will come up with your name and photo. They say, no, he lost the dressing room and players weren't playing. It's easy to say now he could have kept us up. I'm on your side there. I think it's all hindsight, really. It is complete. Everything now is hindsight, because we can say, what if we played, for example, the Everton game, when Maddison took that penalty, I think a lot of people were in agreement Vardy should have taken it because he was on the pitch. I can't remember if Tielemans was on the pitch or not, but again, it's all hindsight. If he'd have scored it, we wouldn't be saying it. So Jason Mills is in the chat. Evening, Jason, mate. Thanks for watching as always. He should have been shown the door after the 3-0 hammering at home to Chelsea. I've got the fixtures here in front of me, so I'm going to go to, whatever fixtures people comment, I'll go to it on the table. So yeah, was it 3-1, Jason? Oh no, that was the 3-1 we lost, Jason. And then we drew to Brentford, and then we lost to Palace, which is when he did get sacked. So LCFC Grey Forever Fox is here. Don't know why we are having this conversation. The BS Rodgers came out with about the Palace game. They had 31 shots first half, and he said we deserved something from the game. I don't know if there's more to comment there, but it's missing. But yeah, that's one topic we're going to be speaking about tonight. You could call it delusion. It felt like stubbornness from Rodgers this season, and we saw it at Liverpool. When he was at Liverpool, we saw it. He'd come out of losses after losses and come and speak to the press, and it was stuff like, they showed great character. We could have got something from the game. And it's like, really, Brendan, believe it or not, after a loss, the fans don't want to hear we should have won it or I'm happy with how we played. That's not what we want to hear. We want to hear slagging off the players. And we're going to get to that because there was a time, we know that Rodgers a few times did slag off the players. So we will come to that. Harris says no. I'm guessing they're just answering the main question. Could Rodgers have kept us in the Premier League? Harris says no. Interesting one here from Dave. Should have gone at the international break, but only if they had someone lined up, as we wasted the Villa and Bournemouth home games. I'm guessing you're not speaking about the World Cup. Sorry, Dave. I think you're speaking about a bit later on in the season. Yeah, just before the part I get you. Ellis says he should have gone in January and should have brought Smith back in January. Now, this is something I want to talk about. Keep getting your comments in because I'm going to go through them a bit later on. So Leicester City started the Premier League season with a 2-2 draw at home to Brentford. We then lost 4-2 to Arsenal. We lost 2-1 to Southampton. We lost 2-1 to Chelsea. We lost 1-0 to Man United. We lost 5-2 to Brighton, and we lost 6-2 to Spurs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, no losses. Now, for me, if Rodgers hadn't have won an FA Cup or got us to 2 top 5 places, if that was Puel or even Dean Smith, they would have been gone. Losing, not winning a single game out of your first 7 Premier League games. That is criminal. Absolute criminal. And, we've had talk we've had the statement from the board in the last 24 hours or the last 48 hours, about the abuse he's received, and that is out of order. However, Rodgers should not have been at the club after that 6-2 loss to Tottenham. He should have been out the door. 1 point on the board, 7 games in. That is disgraceful that he was kept in. But the season's 38 games. And there were, another 31 games after that to come. And this is where it turned around. This is where Brendan Rodgers kept his job. We beat Nottingham Forest 4-0. We then lost 2-1 to Bournemouth, where we thought, oh, okay, the wheels are back off again. But then we drew to Palace. We beat Leeds 2-0. We beat Wolves 4-0. We lost 1-0 to Man City. Nothing wrong with that. We beat Everton 2-0. And we beat West Ham 2-0. Now, that is what kept Brendan Rodgers in his job. We then went for a World Cup where there was, 40 days without a game, without a Premier League game. That's where Rodgers turned it around. The board thought, okay, he's got them playing again. They're playing with confidence, which we were before the World Cup. James Maddison was fighting for that World Cup space, the World Cup place, and we looked like we were going to go in, finish in the top half. It was brilliant. We were playing so well. I think Vardy scored 1 or 2 goals. Obviously, Maddison, Barnes, they were all on it. Even Fass was like putting in a shift, and we looked to turn it around. And I do genuinely believe that is why Brendan Rodgers kept his job for so long. Because we know what happened after that. We lost to Newcastle. We lost to Liverpool. We lost to Fulham. We lost to Newcastle again. We lost to Forest. We drew with Brighton. And then we had another little up in form. We had Villa. We beat 4-2. And Tottenham, we beat 4-1. And again, it's just that hope that kills you. We're thinking, oh, yes, we're going to, we're going to turn it around again. And it didn't. And for me, that is probably part of the reason why Rodgers was not sacked until so late on, because we had 2, albeit the second one was very short, 2 games, but we had 2 turnarounds where the players just seemed to switch it on like that. Literally, click of a finger, the players seemed to switch it on. And I understand the board then maybe trusting in him a little bit more, but you're thinking after the first 7 games where we barely win a game, we don't win a game, he should have gone. And then there's a turnaround in form. It's frustrating as a Leicester fan. I saw comments online about people saying, I hope we don't win on the weekend just so Rodgers goes. And, some people will agree with those comments, some people won't, but it is frustrating. We're going to talk more about everything Rodgers done wrong. And we're also going to be talking about why some people and myself think, well, maybe we could have kept him. So let's go back to some comments. So Ethan Rodriguez Law says, I wish we kept Rodgers so he had a relegation on his CV. Boho says he should have gone 18 months ago after the loss against Forest. Now, this is one of the this is what I want to discuss as well. So, we all know 18 months ago we were defending our FA Cup trophy. We went away to Nottingham Forest and we lost. I don't recall the exact score off by I think it was 4-1, 3-1. We lost. We got battered by Forest. And Rodgers came out after the game and took on those players. He took them on. Let me just move that down a little bit so I'm more on screen. Rodgers took on the players. He slagged them off. He says, this squad needs a refresh. That is basically throwing the players under the bus and saying, these players aren't good enough. I need new players. And there's been a lot of talk, Radio Leicester, Talk Sports, Sky Sports, they've been speaking about it. Was Rodgers backed enough? In my opinion, the players he wanted gone out of the squad were the same players, some of the same players he bought. Right? Ayoze Perez, Patson Daka. I don't know if he included him in that. Samari, Soyuncu. I don't think he bought Soyuncu, but you know what I mean. These are players that Brendan Rodgers signed for the club, and then a year, 2 years later, he's moaning because they're not good enough. And we know that Rodgers has overhauled the scouting network at Leicester, the scouting department, where a couple left because they were being neglected by Brendan Rodgers. And he signed his own players, Yannick Vestergaard, Ryan Bertrand. I mean, we saw from day one, we knew as soon as that was announced, we looked at each other and thought, you know, we've gone from signing Timothy Castagna and Ricardo Pereira at fullback to Ryan Bertrand at left back and Vestergaard at centre back. What's that all about? So yeah, it's there's so much to talk about. Andy Medhurst says, I think under Rodgers, we would have been down before the last game. It's a very interesting point. Let me know in the comments, everybody. Do you agree with what Andy has said there? I want to also hear the flip side. You know, I'm sure there's not many Leicester fans now who do agree with Rodgers would have kept us up. But please, this isn't a bashing Brendan Rodgers stream. This is highlighting his faults, but also kind of questioning whether he would have kept us. And I want to hear the arguments for if he would have kept us in the league. So please put your comments below. I'll start. Obviously, again, it's all hindsight. But for me, I've been Brendan Rodgers out for 2 years. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was probably that Spurs game last season where we were winning. Was it 1-0 or 2-0? I can't remember exactly. And then we conceded 2 goals in the last 2 minutes of the game. That for me highlighted that there was a mentality issue that had already been visible when we bottled, and I'm saying bottled, top 4 twice. Might be being harsh here, but we nearly bottled the FA Cup final if it wasn't for VAR and Chilwell being ruled out. So there was a clear mentality issue, and it's the manager's job. He's a man manager. You know, the manager's job is to manage the players. It's their job to instill a mentality in the team of winning. And that wasn't present under Rodgers in the later days. So, however, saying all this, when you sack a manager with 10 games to go, I think if you bring in a manager instantly, next day, 2 days later, in time for the next game, if Dean Smith was in for that Bournemouth game, maybe that manager bounce that we saw against Wolves, even on Sunday against Wolves, against West Ham, maybe we pick up another win there. And we know now that another win would have kept us in the Premier League. However, we didn't do that. We did not sack Rodgers and bring in a new manager straight away. We left it 10 days. 10 days, 2 fixtures. I'm not swearing at you. 2 fixtures against winnable games. Yeah, Villa's a difficult game, but they were there for the taking in that game. If anybody was there at the King Power Stadium that night, you'll know they weren't amazing. And the Bournemouth game, obviously there for the taking. And we left it because there was no one lined up. Now, for me, at that point, with 10 games left, and if you know that you haven't got a manager lined up for the next game, I think maybe there is an argument to be had that Brendan Rodgers should have stayed in charge until the end of the season. I do. I think there's an argument to be had. Dean Smith, with the 10 days gap, Dean Smith was left with 8 games, and including those games, it was Man City, Newcastle, Liverpool. So basically, although I know we drew the Newcastle game, but basically, you know, you've got 6 games or 5 games where you can win, and we only won 2. But there's an argument to be had with such little time. You know, Rodgers may well have been better off staying. Let's see some more. Brian Beers, please, guys, remember, keep getting your comments in. I want to hear arguments for both sides. Again, this isn't a Brendan Rodgers bashing session, right? We've had that all year. This is arguments for both sides. Even if you were so set on Rodgers getting sacked, just have a think and see if you can think of an argument for why he should have stayed. Brian Beers, I believe Kasper Schmeichel alluded to the fact that Rodgers' message to the team never changed, no matter the circumstance, which would definitely support how me, Phil, especially Jamie, everyone really, have been saying for a long time, no plan B. No plan B, because the message never changed. It becomes stale. That's Brian's words, but it was probably something that we would all agree with. And it was falling on deaf ears, and we see that a lot. This is why Alex Ferguson is such a great manager. He was managing that team for so many years. And he just kept it up. The players kept listening. You know, he would refresh the squad, fair enough, every year. But the spine, the main, you know, players in that team were there for a long time. And Fergie kept them going, you know, the same, you know, maybe not the same messages all the time, but, you know, same kind of playing style. That is why he is such a good manager. And Rodgers couldn't do it. Rodgers could not keep this team playing for more than 30 games, because, you know, the 2 years we finished 5th, for 3/4 of the season, we were magnificent. We were at the top of the table for such a long period of time. You know, early on in the season, it was like, can we win the league again? You know, the 9-0 against Southampton. And then towards the end of the season, it just started to fall apart. LCFC Grey, to be honest, Locks, I don't think anybody would have kept that group of players up. To me, they were totally disinterested. I would disagree. I think by the time Rodgers was sacked, a lot of the players had given up, I believe. And it wasn't until, you know, it wasn't probably until the last game of the season where it was our best game under Dean Smith, that last game of the season against West Ham. It wasn't until then where they decided to play. And I called it. I said, I bet you they'll play on the last game. I guarantee you we will win and we will play good football. I said it to Phil a few weeks ago. I guarantee you we'll win on that last day of the season. Not even just because West Ham might be on the beach, but just the fact that it's that Sky Sports. It's their last chance in the shop window. Boho Records, enough said, Locks. The writing was on the wall. Yeah, agree. Reedy says, my point is that managers that were kept in charge stayed up. Steve Cooper kept Forrest up. It was looking like he was going to get sacked for long periods of the season. Their board's pretty ruthless. The owner's ruthless. Spent a lot of money. They kept him, and it worked. Absolutely. But Reedy, I suppose Steve Cooper hasn't been there for 3 years, 4 years. He hasn't been there for 4 years. You know, in 4 years' time, maybe the message will get old, and he hasn't got the motivation to keep them up. Gary Wright reckons he should have gone at Christmas. Interesting. LCFC Gray says, if it had been my decision, he would have gone after the Forest FA Cup debacle. Yeah, we just spoken about that. Ellis Molyneux, it's Rudkin and co making the decisions. That's it. You know, let us know, did Top make the right decision this season? You know, at the end of the day, it's Rudkin and Top who, and, you know, we're hearing a lot now that Rudkin's in Top's ear a lot, and it's their decision. They're the ones who didn't sack him, and they had the power to do so. They were the only ones that had the power to sack Brendan Rodgers. We sacked Ranieri after winning the league. Absolutely. We sacked Ranieri after winning the league. A different guy sacked him. We need to remember that. You know, Convishai, a bit more ruthless than his son, I think it's fair to say. Although, you know, you can say that Top did actually sack Puel. But I think that even went on for a lot, too long, you would argue. Never mind going over old ground. It's about what we do going forward. Well, that, Mark, we've got time for that, mate. We've got 48 days or something until the new season starts, or maybe that might be a bit more than that. So we are going to be going on about the next season, the championship season, but we're just doing a few shows looking over what went wrong this season. And this one is about Brendan Rodgers. Do you think the problems are a lot deeper in this club that we don't know about? Well, I think every day more stuff is coming out, Scooby. I think, or Baz, sorry. The Athletic via Rob Tanner we're hearing more from them about the club. Rob Tanner's a great journalist. Doesn't matter what James Maddison says. Tweet is still up there, by the way. And he knows a lot about the club. He's got a good insight. I'm sure he's got contacts in there, and more is coming out. So I would recommend, and I think it's only like 50p a week. We've got no partnership with the Athletic, by the way. So I'm not getting paid to say this. 50p a week, the Athletic. I would highly recommend subscribing to that and keeping a lookout on Rob Tanner's Twitter page. He'll post the newest articles because a lot is coming out, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. Simon Booth said, should have been playing 5 at the back to try and get a clean sheet. Now, that's a very interesting point, guys. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. We saw it against Newcastle. Game plan worked. And we have seen this similar game plan from Rodgers before. We have seen a smash and grab from Rodgers before. Should we have done that earlier? And Dean Smith's not blameless. Should Dean Smith have done it earlier when we played Liverpool or Fulham? Should he have done it as well? Adam White is the first one I've seen, I think. Adam White, mate, please let me know more in the comments, and everybody else if you agree. Rodgers should have stayed 100%. Now, Adam, why is that? Is that because it was too late? Is that what you think? Or would you have kept Rodgers no matter what? Would you have sacked him in October? Would you have sacked him in February? Let me know what you think, Adam. Let us know in the comments, everybody, if you agree with Adam or not. Excuse me. LCFC Grey, forever a Fox. We got battered and didn't have a clue against Forest. Yep, absolutely. Look at his poor signings. Agreed. I've spoken already about it a little bit, but unofficially, this is unofficial. I think it actually might be official now because Rob Tanner spoke about it. 2 members of the scouting staff, the scouting team at Leicester City left mid-season, or I think early last season, because they felt they were being neglected by Brendan Rodgers. Maybe a similar time to the Vestergaard and Bertrand signings. We even had talk of El Nusi coming to Leicester. Another Rodgers signing, maybe. I don't know. Gray says Daka never prem. That's a conversation for another day, mate. We're going to be talking about that, all the players in the squad. After this video, if you go back on our channel earlier on, Reedy and Sam discussed keep, sell, loan, bin players for next season. So Daka was spoken about there. So check that out. I honestly think he would have kept us up, Facebook user says. That's interesting again. Let me know why. Guys in the comment, whoever's commenting, I want to hear why. You don't just say Rodgers should have gone. Rodgers should have stayed. Tell me why. So whoever this is, by the way, if you are coming up as Facebook user, go onto the actual Leicester Fan TV Facebook page or YouTube, and your name in a picture will be up instead. Fee is here. Good to have you Batlocks. Thanks, Fee. Nice to see you. Absolutely. I'm here. I'm here now, baby. I'm here now, everybody. I'm back on Leicester Fan TV, so there's a lot more content from me and the other content team to come this summer, next season. Looking forward to it. As I said the other day, trying to lift the mood just a little bit. If it's possible. Rodgers is a class manager, Josh. It's a very interesting point as well, mate. I said this about Yuri Tillemans, about James Maddison, about Ndidi, about Brendan Rodgers. I have no doubt that they're going to go on to other clubs and start incredibly well. Incredibly well. We all know Rodgers will go to his next manager's job, and he will get them playing some nice football. He did it at Swansea. He did it at Liverpool. He did it at Leicester. I didn't really see him at Watford, so I can't comment on that. But it's what comes after 2-3 years. That's the question. Look what he did for the club. This man managed us to a FA Cup trophy, 2 5th place finishes, a Conference League semi-final. That will never be forgotten. Never. There's a lot of talk this week already. A lot of people being very reminiscent, nostalgic, and saying, and grateful. Leicester fans, yes, we're down. Yes, we've had it. The last 10 years will never be beaten. It will never be beaten. We might be in the Premier League next year in 2024-5, but we will never have a 10 years like we have just had. And it is the end of an era. And Brendan Rodgers is a massive part of what we've achieved. We cannot forget that at all. Having 2 caretakers in charge for 2 games didn't help. I would agree. You want to think Shaky was out of a job when we came calling with Dean Smith and JT. Why did we not bring Shaky in straight away? We could have done it instantly. He was out of a job. Where is the evidence? Rodgers is a class. He managed in a Mickey Mouse league. Okay. Brendan Rodgers, nearly, fair enough, won a Premier League title with Liverpool. Yeah. 2nd place, where previously they were well off it. He left that squad in a decent shape. He did have Suarez, Swansea City before that, it had them playing great football, absolutely great football, and they went a little bit downhill when he left. They had Michael Laudrup, but he couldn't really continue it. Leicester City, do I really need to say it? Leicester City won the Premier League. Ranieri got sacked. We had Shaky for a bit. Then we had Puel, one of the worst times I've had as a Leicester fan under Puel, the boring football. And then Rodgers came in and turned us around. We finished, I think, was it 8th in his first season? He got a load of results. He was here for half a season. And then we finished 5th place. Yeah. One of our best seasons in the last 10 years, that 2019-2020 season, which, sadly ended with a 5th place, not a 4th place, and also COVID. I'm not blaming COVID, by the way. I think Brendan Rodgers has done enough to prove he is a class manager. Not world class, I'm just saying class. He would walk into Tottenham and get them playing for, very well. Again, though, the discussion is how long will it last, and you don't know. So, heard from and before I even read the comment, Boho, thanks for getting your comments in, like everybody else, much appreciated. Charlie as well, and Gray and Scooby and Josh, everyone. Heard from a former Liverpool under-23 that this is what will happen to us with Rodgers when he first came to Leicester. I was told he really doesn't have a clue how to treat players as favourites. Anyone who plays Football Manager, right? I don't know if many people in the chat do. I'm a very, very big Football Manager fan. Obviously, it's not real life. I know that. I'm not sad. It is very difficult when you're managing 30, when you've got 25 players in a squad, and I know it's a video game, but please just hear me out. Anybody in the chat who runs a business and looks after a kind of medium-sized team, let's say 25 people, like a Premier League squad, it's hard to keep everyone happy all the time. It really is. However, I would agree that his man management skills, they do really need sorting out. Did the players step up? Nope, they did not. They did not. And they didn't help the situation. But again, it's Rodgers who needs to get that out of them. Schmeichel's transfer was the start of the fall, and replacing him with Danny Ward was one of the worst decisions I have ever seen. I've got a confession to make. I don't know if Phil Holloway is watching this show. Obviously I haven't been on Leicester Fan TV for 18 months, but I did actually come on last summer, made an appearance with Phil when Kasper Schmeichel was sold. And it's still on the internet. You'll still find it. I did say that I thought Danny Ward would come in and do a job for us. I did. And I'm very sorry I said that. I was truly, truly wrong. And I hold my hands up, because Danny Ward has got to be the worst performing goalkeeper I have ever seen in any team, not just Leicester. The only one that rivals him was that kind of time frame. Do you remember when Loris Karius was at Liverpool and he had clanger after clanger? That's the only person I can think of that comes close in the top of my mind to how bad Danny Ward has been. Why did it take so long for Iverson to come in? But anyway, we're not talking about that. Well, we can, because Rodgers should have replaced him earlier. Yeah, we'll talk about Rodgers. Like I said, that's another thing that Rodgers did wrong. He should have brought Iverson into the squad a lot sooner. Ward, Amati, and Brendan Stubbornness. Yeah, I mean, if you're referring to Brendan Stubbornness to play Ward and Amati, I completely agree with you. Waiting 10 games was criminal locks. And the two that came in did the exact same tactics as Rodgers. Yep, they did. Fee says, I think he should have stayed. Again, tell me why, Fee. Let me know in the comments why. I think there's an argument to be had. You know, Rodgers was sacked with 10 games, and the board would have known at the time that they didn't have an immediate replacement. So there is a real argument that for why he should have stayed until the end of the season. You know, I'm not saying after the season. You know, even if he kept us up by a couple of points, I still think he should have gone. Locks, if we look at our points return from Dean Saunders, if he had come... Dean Smith. Nice one there, Boho. Very close. One's Welsh, though, like me. Look, if we if we look at our points return from Dean Smith, if he had come earlier, we would be safe. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I think if we brought Smith in 2-3 games earlier, I would say that without a doubt we would have probably stayed in the Premier League. We would have had Dean Smith for Bournemouth and Everton games. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to talk about Dean Smith too much because this is a Brendan Rodgers show, but does Dean Smith lack tactical nous? We know Brendan Rodgers lacks tactical adaptability. We know that. He can't adapt, I don't think, Brendan Rodgers. He has to have it his way or no way. No plan B. He does lack tactical adaptability. But I would say that the tactics, when he gets them right, they are probably a lot better than Dean Smith. And I think Dean Smith, there's nothing against him. They're two different types of managers. I think Dean Smith probably goes on a lot more on... He's more of a motivator, a man manager. And Rodgers is more of a tactician. It's just a shame that the tactician only has one tactic. Sorry, Rodgers. I believe Rodgers was let down this summer. He wasn't allowed to refresh the squad. Well, we've got to remember here, he could have been given more money. It sounded like he believed he would be given more money in January when he spoke after the Forest game. Pardon me. But he had Fass, and let's assume that Fass was a Rodgers signing. It was his choice. He chose Fass to come in and replace Fofana. And then in January, he brought in Tete, which, again, you know, it's another unproven player. You know, there were talks that we should have had Jack Harrison, but he decided against coming to us. But you've set me off now, William. I've not said anything yet, but it's in my head. Ayoze Perez and Mark Albrighton. Let's talk about that. Brendan Rodgers, knowing that Leicester City only had one winger in the squad, Harvey Barnes, he decided to loan out Jose Perez, who's had a very tough time at Leicester from all the criticism. Fan base very much split on him. And Mark Albrighton. And we went for Harrison and we didn't get him. And I think we were, even after we signed Tete, we were still going for Harrison, but we still let Albrighton and we still let Perez go. I mean, how stupid do you have to be? I would have rathered Albrighton or Perez in our squad, in our starting 11 in all of the last 10 games of the season. And I think Dean Smith probably would have had either of them in his squad, in his starting 11 for the last 10 games of the season or last 8 games under Smith. How crazy do you have to be to have one winger at the club in Harvey Barnes and the only other two you've got, you get rid of on loan? Come on. Come on. And don't even try and tell me that weren't a Rodgers decision, because we all know that if Rodgers wanted them to stay, he would have. Locks, we were so easy to defend against. We were so one-dimensional. We all know what they were going to do. Yeah, that's what I'm saying about Rodgers. He's a one-tactic man, lack of adaptability. Madison, penalty save, big factor for why you were relegated. Yeah, let everyone keep getting your comments in, please. It's much appreciated. Yeah, but you can't give up. Foxes never quit. They have destroyed that motto. Yeah, I mean, I tweeted a few weeks ago, Foxes quit 18 months ago, because that's what I truly believed. Rodgers should have gone at the start of the season when he said that the players that won us the FA Cup would be in a relegation trouble because he didn't get money to spend. He then expected the players to play for him. Once he said the board hadn't done anything, it was time to go. Brendan Rodgers threw the players under the bus several times. And can we all please, if you do remember this, if you do know this, some might not know, who was Brendan Rodgers' mentor? In the comments, who was Brendan Rodgers' mentor? Let me know. I'll give you a clue. He's also a master at throwing players under the bus. I'm waiting for the first comment to come in. Who is Brendan Rodgers' mentor? I'll give you another clue. It was at Chelsea. There we go. It's flying in. Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho. Thank you very much. Could be a coincidence. Could not. He learnt from the best, I suppose. Mourinho, one of the best managers ever. And maybe that's where he's got his style from too. The only difference is, I suppose, Mourinho can keep a clean sheet. The councillor, Evening Locks. Nice to see you, councillor. Nice to see you, councillor. LCFC great. Playing out from the back, we are clueless. That was Rodgers. Crazy, but let's remember Albrighton offers nothing now. Should have kept Perez. Again, I know it's a meme online because people say, well, that's not good enough. But Albrighton offers something. He offers passion and energy, right? Something we have lacked a lot this season. Can you imagine the reaction if Rodgers had stayed and we went down? He should have gone sooner. Yeah, look, again, Andy, I agree with you. It's Andy. Yeah, Andy, it's hindsight. But don't you just think maybe 8 games was a little bit too late, or 10 games was a little bit too late? I think at some stage of the season, you've got to commit and hope for the best. I'm not excusing at all Top for not sacking him sooner, because he 100% should have gone earlier. But with 10 games left, do you then commit like Nottingham Forest did? You know, Bournemouth, you know. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Look at Leeds bringing in Allardyce with four games to go. We weren't that extreme, but yeah. Did we need new players? I feel that team was good enough to step. Absolutely, that team was good enough on paper to stay in the Premier League, and it was Rodgers' job to do that. Why did Rodgers give Albrighton the vice captaincy when he let him go? It's a very good question. These are all questions that we should be asking. Seemed like Rodgers lost the dressing room, certain players not even in the team or squad, when other players making mistakes after mistake every game. Why were they not dropped? You mentioned players there, Ward, Amati, Fast and Didi. And on the flip side, you've got players like Soyuncu who were dropped. Come on. He was our best centre-back when he came back from injury, and it's a shame that he went out again injured. And he's going to be missed. You know, Soyuncu will be missed for me anyway. He made some clangers. He's a bit of a maverick, but he cared. He cared. I'm just seeing all the Mourinho comments now. No fighting spirit. Yeah, absolutely. Albrighton lasted one game at West Brom. I think he played more than one game, Georgie. We need a different mindset of players for the Championship. The quality of clubs is massive. Yeah, it's going to be one of the strongest Championship seasons ever, I would say. Tanner reckons that Rudkin was keeping Rodgers in the job. We spoke about this on my show yesterday morning with Tom, Reedy, Jono and Ross, where Rudkin, it's been confirmed Rudkin and Rodgers were very close at the club and they were in offices next to each other. Could well be a reason why he was kept so long. But at the end of the day, the book stops with Top. He has the final call. Rodgers made Vardy lose the HUD. Hardy. I don't know if that's a euphemism. I don't know exactly what you're trying to say there. But yeah, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Rodgers made Vardy loose the HUD. Hardy. We all know the way he played. We knew we saw a bit of old Vardy back when he left. Yeah. Under Shaky and Dean Smith, absolutely. We should have kept Soyuncu's class. Another decision from Rodgers to not offer him any contract. Drop him, you know. What can you say? Should Leicester City sign Ole over Dean Smith? That's, again, another conversation for another day. We'll talk about it. Last night, Phil did a show. If you go back on our channel, you will see Phil's show where he spoke about stick or twist with Dean Smith. So watch that and let us know what you think. But yeah, I mean, you're telling me that the squad we had wasn't good enough to not be relegated. Decisions like playing Ward and Amati as well as not playing Soyuncu, Iheanacho and Vardy were the problem, and that's all on Rodgers. I couldn't agree with you more, TJ. Now, yeah, I mean, you know, we're getting to the end of the show. There's been a load of comments, and I have really, really, really appreciated it. So please keep getting your comments in below before we finish, because I'll try and get as many as I can on screen. Good, Vardy. Cheers, Susie, for clarifying. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a rough season. You know, I've been going to Leicester games. My first Leicester game was 2008 or 2007, I think, against Bristol Rovers in League One. So that was my first game, and ever since then, I've never looked back as a Leicester fan. And funny enough, I've never had a relegation since then. I've got family members, friends who have all experienced relegation, as a lot of people in the comments have. However, it's tough to take the relegation. As I said earlier, you know, we've had the best 10 years that anyone at any, you know, club of our level will ever have. You know, we were the underdogs. We were the 5,000 to 1 underdogs. And we won the Premier League. We won the FA Cup, underdogs. We finished 5th place, underdogs. And it's sad. It's sad that era is over, because it is over. It is over. Even if we go back up next season, you know, the golden era of Leicester City is finished. And there's been a lot of fighting between Leicester fans all season, and even now to this day, even people in the comments here arguing. And it's time to stop. You know, the season's over. We can't go back in time. We can only look forward. I understand, you know, I'm here to do a job and to speak about the season, and it is hard sometimes because you want to try and forget it. But we've seen it all. we have seen it all as Leicester fans. Yeah, we've seen League One, we've seen Championship, we've seen Premier League, we've seen FA Cup glory, we've seen Champions League, we've seen Europa League, we've seen Conference League, we've seen Rome, we've seen Naples, we've seen Madrid. Right? We played against Messi, for Christ's sake, in a friendly. Right? We played Ronaldo a few years ago, like 10 years ago. Right? We have seen it all. Nothing will ever change it. But let's stick together. Let's back the lads, the new lads that come in. A lot of people have been renewing their season tickets these last 48 hours, and fair play, because, you know, we've not been treated the greatest in the last 12 months. But we will be back. The club and top, I hope, are listening to us, every single one of us, with the feedback, and let's hope we go straight back up to the Premier League, and let's win it all. Let's win it all over again, right? Let's win the whole lot all over again in the next 5 years. But no, I mean, let's stick together. Let's back the lads, the new lads that come in, the new staff, the new manager, whoever that might be, top, each other, you know, in the stands. Get it back to 15, 16 vibes in the ground. And as long as we do that, we've done our bit. You know, Leicester have been talking about they did their bit on the final day of the season. It's time to do our bit. And our bit is, naturally, the stadium might be quieter next year, less people. Let's try and fill it. We're going to have games against teams that we never thought we'd ever play against ever again. Plymouth, Rotherham. We're going to be playing these teams. And it's not attractive. But let's make our stadium a fortress again. And let's go from the bottom back to the top where we have been before. And as Mike says there, the Blues go marching on. I'm going to end it there, everyone, because I wouldn't say I'm getting emotional, but I'm starting to go on a little bit. And, you know, we'll be back. We'll be back. And there's plenty more shows to come this week. So, yeah, thanks for all your comments in the chat. It's much appreciated. Thanks for supporting the channel. And all I can say, and I haven't said this for a long time on Leicester Fan TV, come on, you Foxes.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pucka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hologram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newbie & Co. Estate Agents. Make sure to follow us on all of our social channels at Leicester Fan TV. Visit our website, leicesterfantv.com.